My mother never taught me how to be oppressed. It seems odd saying it that way, but I have come to realise that thinking you're somehow less because you tick F instead of M is most often an inherited belief. My mum never shied away from answering my questions, no matter how awkward or sweat-inducing they were. When I asked her how babies are made, she didn't tell me to be quiet. She bought me a book. I was 6. And she was the calming influence when out with a friend's family, I discovered I'd been eating hamburgers. She took the time to reassure me there was, in fact, no ham in my food that day. When I was sat in the back of her green Triumph and I spelled out the letters R-A-P-E on the front of a newspaper, she didn't hesitate to tell me when I asked her what the word meant. If I ever had a question, she had an answer. Maybe not the most eloquent, but the main thing is, nothing was a taboo subject. She taught me to hit back, to defend myself, to never cry in front of a bully. And when she and my father separated for the first time, she was practicing what she preached. Even in her new role as a single mum, she always had time to listen to my poems and stories. She'd be tying her blue apron ready to go for work, and I would beg her to stay for 5 more minutes of Ren and Stimpy, or share bites of my sardines on toast, or listen to my latest literary masterpiece. When I faced my first racial attack, I told her she would never understand how I felt. After all, she's white, and I am not so white. I know it was hard for her to feel helpless like that. I mean, what would you want to do to that lowlife who'd exposed your child to the ugliness of racism? When her curiosity about my dad's spiritual transformation led her to sit quietly in the corner of a mosque, she refused the welcoming sisters' attempts at dawah. She told them she was not interested in converting and to leave her alone. So she sat and watched until she fell in love with the manners of the women she'd been observing, and she made up her own mind to take her shahada. And she and my father, united in their passion for Islam, decided to give their marriage another try. On the day of her conversion, my mother did something I had been struggling with for months. She put on her hijab. And with her back straight, she walked out of our house like it was the most natural thing in the world. And it was at that moment that I learnt how insignificant the outside world could be to my own self-worth. That straight back, to me, was a rejection of all of those societal pressures laid on us women waiting outside the door. At school, the teachers refused my request to wear a white hijab in the summertime. Despite every other student being allowed to wear a white shirt, I was told a white hijab was not school colours. The school colours emblazoned on our uniform's tie were navy blue with a thin stripe of gold. So my mum, not one to shy away from a challenge, bought me the brightest gold material she could find and then sewed a tiny navy blue square onto the end. It looked awful. No, let me tell you, this was not the sort of hijab you find on Dina Tokyo. But I walked into school, back straight, emulating my mother, wearing the school colours. The second time my mother left my father, it was forever. She called my siblings and I into the room and she showed us his face. She said out loud all of those things she'd disguised for so long. I often wonder why she chose to tell us then. Maybe she thought we were ready to know. And there are times we feel her resistance is waning. She'll reminisce almost fondly about her times with my dad. It's not since I myself have fallen in love have I actually understood in my bones how hard it must be to switch off your feelings for someone else, no matter how messy the relationship looks from the outside. But she never went back to him. She still hasn't. And I face my own daily attempted oppressions. Strangers trying to convince me of my own inferiority, or imams who think that women should be unseen and unheard, or bullies who were confident in my silence during Islamophobic attacks. And yet every time, I remember how straight my mother's back was as she left our home that day. These days, I have a reputation of being something of a rebel. No, there are men in my local Muslim community who I have disagreed with because of their male chauvinistic ideas, who cross the road when they see me coming. My mother never taught me how to be oppressed. She taught me how to stand with my back straight and face whatever seeks to bring me down.